I'm going to tell you how to convert a decimal to a fraction. So let's say we start off with the decimal 0.2, 0 and 2/10. Your first step would be to draw a line underneath the number behind the decimal. From here, since there's only one number behind the decimal, you would add a 0 underneath that number. However many numbers there are behind the decimal up here is how many numbers you add underneath. So since we already have our 0 down here, we're going to put a 1 in front of that 0. This lets us know that this is 2/10. From here, you just erase your decimal and erase your 0, and you have your fraction. Your next step would be to simplify your fraction. All we have to do is we have to divide the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor. In this case, that would be 2. So I'm going to divide the numerator and the denominator by 2, and we're left with 1/5. Now, let's say that we have 0 and 24/100. It's the same steps. You put a line underneath the numbers behind the decimal. Since we have two numbers here, we're going to do just like we did in that first example, except we're going to add 2 zeros for the two numbers behind that decimal. You add a 1 in front of those zeros, you erase the 0 and the decimal, and you're left with your fraction. All we have to do now is simplify. So from here we can divide the numerator and we can divide the denominator by 4, because that's the greatest common factor, and we are left with 6/25, because 24 divided by 4 is 6, 100 divided by 4 is 25. Now, one more example. Let's say we have 1.21. Since there's a whole number here, you still do the exact same steps. You draw your line, you add your 2 zeros for the two numbers behind the decimal, you add your 1. Now you erase your decimal and you make your whole number bigger. Now we have 1 and 21/100. 21/100 is already in simplest form, so this is the final answer. And that is how you convert decimals to fractions.